Ret doesn't have a slow. Ret is vulnerable to CC and kiting. It doesn't have a gap closer, and its damage can be unreliable. Sure. So, in Ret's base form, it has plenty of issues. So, I'm going to list about 5 things that are going to help with this. And they are going to make Ret much, much better in ways that only Ret could utilize. So, first of all, I'm going to start with the trinket slot. And by default, you're going to have Insignia of the Alliance. Now, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you should use a trinket. Everyone knows. Everyone's going to be using a trinket. But it's a couple trinkets, and it's one slot, and we're going to be weaving them in and out. And by weaving, I mean, by default, you're going to be using the Insignia of the Alliance. And then, when that's on cooldown, you use a longer cooldown trinket. But then, when you use that one, you equip Insignia again. And then when you use Insignia the second time, you equip a different trinket with a long cooldown. And the unique thing about Ret is that it has freedom, which means it can utilize the trinkets I'm going to mention better than, or more usefully than any other class. And so, let's say you're a warrior and you get Nova'd and a mage blinks and then you net them, right? You have net on and you want to connect with them, right? But when you use a net, you're still in a Nova. I mean, sure, you could trinket, but then you just use 2 trinkets on one encounter. So that's lame. But a Ret can net someone, and then they can freedom, they can cleanse, or they already have freedom, and then they can connect. So they can stop someone in a certain spot and connect with them, and they can't be rooted. They can't be stopped. They have freedom. So that's why Ret can use what I'm about to show you better than pretty much anyone, and needs it just about more than anyone else. So first one is trinket. The first long cooldown trinket, first one is Insignia. The first long cooldown trinket is the Netomatic. So you can net a mage who blinks away, for example, and then run straight to them. They can't run away. You can net a melee who's attacking you, walk away, heal yourself, then come back. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with it, but it's great because it's a gap closer, right? Your gap closer is these trinkets and all the things I'm going to show you. Okay, so after you use that, good, you equip your Insignia, and then you use your Insignia again because it's great, right? It helps with everything, basically. And then what are we going to equip next? So we're going to equip the Title Charm. Works basically the same way as the net. It's going to let us connect. It's going to let us walk away for a second. It's going to let us heal. And it's a great gap closer, you know. They blink, you Title Charm, and then you run straight to them. And then you can catch up with them by the time it's off. Fantastic. Okay. And then you equip your Insignia again. Then you use that. But then your Title Charm and your net are both on cooldown. But we have 2 more trinkets. So you're basically never going to run out of trinkets. So the next one is actually not trinket. It's the Goblin Rocket Helm. So you're going to weave this as the 3rd major trinket. But the order doesn't really matter. But just for sake of explaining, and this is great, right? This is like auto win. You can do it on a melee, a range. It's a gap closer. It lets you heal yourself. I mean, I don't really need to say much about it. So when that one's on cooldown, right? Insignia again, and then somehow you have all of your trinkets, all 4 of those trinkets I mentioned on cooldown. There's one more. It is the Compass. The 30-minute cooldown Compass. Long cooldown, right? People don't really like relying on long cooldowns, but in this sort of equation, it's really good because it's that final trinket, and by the time you use that and your Insignia like 4 times, you're gonna have like all your other trinkets coming off cooldown basically. And this is gonna let you run away from a melee. It's gonna and heal yourself, for example. It's gonna let you gap close as well. Against a range class. So that's just one slot though, and I got 4 other things that I'm going to talk about. The second one is agility as a stat. It increases your crit by 1% with just about 20, right? Versus 100, which is like 50 something. So you can see these 2 pieces here. One has higher damage, but one has basically 1% crit. So I would personally take 1% crit, because crit usually is going to make or break a duel a lot more often than just a little bit of attack power. Like, crit is huge, and especially in PvP. You don't crit, you don't win. You don't kill stuff. So, really good. All right, that was a small thing. The third one is grenade. So, yeah, obviously you're going to be using grenade. Grenades are cheap, they're great, everyone knows they're good. But specifically for red, they use them and need them as much as anyone else, if not more. And if a mage blinks, you can throw the grenade in the direction that they're running, and that is basically a gap closer, because they don't want to. Usually you'll have Hodge still when they blink, and they don't want you to get close to them, because then you can Hodge them, and they want to polymorph you. But with grenade, you can stun them, and then that's the gap closer, essentially, right? And if they blink, they incur a global cooldown, which means they can't immediately polymorph you, which means it gives you plenty of time to react and throw that grenade and land it. So that is super good. The number 4 is the Icy Chill enchant, as well as the Frostbolt oil. So Frostbolt oil is if you want to spend money, but it's not necessary. But it functions the same way. It has a chance to put a slow on them, right? But Icy Chill is super good for red, because we don't have a slow. If you hit a mage and then they blink, but they have Icy Chill on them, then you can catch them. But if not, you can't catch them. So yeah, it's super useful. Everyone's gonna kite you. People melee who are dying, or range classes, they're all gonna kite you. So this can help, and it can single-handedly win games sometimes. And obviously, we don't want to get disarmed, so that's why we have the Stronghold gauntlets, immune to disarm, and also bot gets rid of disarm as well. So not a problem. So that is really going to help you connect, and you might even save you having to use trinkets too. Same thing with bubble and bot, right? Those are kind of like trinkets, where they're like a big cooldown that saves you in a lot of situations and helps you win the game. And then lastly, we have the final trinket slot, which is so this is where blacksmithing comes in. So there's 3 trinkets, and they're all basically for warlocks, because warlocks are very hard for us to deal with. They got fear, they have succubus sometimes, so they just manhandle you so easily. And these 3 trinkets are going to make it a lot harder for them to do that. We have the Shadow Reflector, I would say default. This is going to make you immune to fear, immune to seduction, immune to single target effects, and it doesn't stop AoE, so like Shadow Priest is still going to fear you. But I mean, it still helps against Shadow Priest if you want to use it against that. But mainly Warlock, right? So when that's on cooldown, we also have Fire Reflector. Also great against Warlock. They have Immolate, Destruction Warlocks have Conflagrate, and then there's Soulfire too. Let's say they fear you, start casting Soulfire, and then you immediately trinket right before it launches, and you activate Fire Reflector. GG. They're gonna die. So, and then there's a third one though. This one's really interesting. You have to get blacksmithing, and that is going to allow you to be immune to fear for 20 seconds. So this is like our final trinket against these warlocks, and it's super good. Immune to fear, right? So yeah, if I was a paladin, I would be a dwarf, because the stone form removes blind and poisons off and disease, but blind. And then I would be a blacksmith, so that I can have that fear trinket to rotate on my second slot. And I would also have engineering, of course, right? So yeah, that's my 5 things. Thanks guys so much for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope you're excited to play Ret. If you want to play Ret, maybe this inspired you to play Ret. Yeah, super fun class, and there's a lot of ways to help it out. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see ya.